What's going on, guys? So today I'm finally doing a video on my drift. This is the Quiet Carry Drift. Very cool knife. I got this thing a couple years back. That's right, years, not months or weeks. I want to say I got this thing probably in early 2020, like before the world started to end, like January maybe. But anyway, this was voted 2019 Best EDC Knife overall at Blade Show West, and that's no joke. There's a lot of cool knives to compare it to. But the Drift took #1 as Best EDC Knife because even though it looks really plain Jane, I mean it really does, there's a lot going on with this knife. All right, so before we get into it, let me show you the packaging real quick. You can see on the side they had a couple different things marked off here because they have multiple variants on this knife. Just slide it open, you have a simple insert there. We have a card, thank you for your purchase, limited lifetime warranty. Warranty is simple, we guarantee all of our products against defects for the original owner. If you find an issue under normal use, we will repair or replace your Quiet Carry products. Be sure to keep your knife clean, oiled, and sharp. Quiet Carry. Simple, right? Now I know the company is located out in California. I don't know for certain if this is an American-made knife or if they're importing parts or even the whole knife for that matter. But you know, if you know for sure where these are made, you can let me know because I wasn't able to find that out. But the Quiet Carry company has numerous models. One thing they do on all their models, which kind of makes them a little bit unique and just it stands out quickly as a Quiet Carry knife, is these 4 dots on the handle. Okay, now it's not on one side, it's actually on both sides. They're in different locations there, but there's those 4 dots. I believe they do this on all their knives. It just, again, just a little tiny detail there. Now, if you took all the information off the blade here and there was no markings or anything, you know, and you hand me this knife and just randomly, I wouldn't really think much of it. I wouldn't think it was special, but this knife is, in fact, very, very special in a bunch of different ways. Before we get into those particular ways, I'm going to give you some specs on here. 2.9 inches on our blade here. It's very thin, very lightweight, only comes in at 2.7 ounces. Our very thin blade is flat grounds, and it is only 0.09 inches wide. Now, for some people, those specs don't really mean much. It's like, okay, well, it's kind of thin, whatever. The thinner your blade is, the better it slices. That's just how that works. You know what I'm saying? Now, there's always a limit. You don't want to walk around with a kitchen knife that's super, super thin. Obviously, we get damaged easily. But I can tell you that if you took this knife and put it into a group of 4 or 5 other knives, just some standard stuff in the market right now, you'd be able to tell right away which one this is. This thing cuts like crazy. It is extremely impressive in its capability. Not only is it super thin, not only is it nice and flat ground, there's very little resistance there, but this one is sporting a Vanax Superclean steel. Now, I know that I just said that. A bunch of people watching the video have no idea what I'm talking about. What does that mean? What is a Vanax Superclean steel? So Bowler makes Vanax Superclean. It's actually the 3rd variant on the blade steel. When it first hit the market, I think it was called Vanax 35, and then they improved it a little bit. Then it was Vanax 75, and then they improved it a little bit, and the best version of it, the current version, is the Vanax Superclean. To make that more confusing, oftentimes it's just called Vanax, and then you don't really know which version you have. But the Drift, I believe, was only made with the Superclean variant of the Vanax steel. Now, this is the original Superclean, or the original Drift, rather, with the cutout hole. They do have a newer version of this knife currently that has thumb studs. I think they're ambidextrous thumb studs on them. Okay, I don't think a lot of people like this opening slot that's in here. I don't mind it too much. Using it one-handed, you do need a little bit more pressure just because there's a good detent in this knife. You can use the old pinch grip thing that might help you a little bit. But I did find that more times than not, you're able to flick this out. If you do the old spider flick thing with the middle finger, you can get that out fairly easily. But I think a lot of people prefer the thumb studs because they did eventually switch over to those. But anyway, what also makes this extremely unique is the Vanax steel is a nitrogen steel. It should consider a nitrogen steel because there's more nitrogen than there is carbon. This is Rockwell between 60 and 62. I could tell you that it is definitely harder to sharpen. I've only sharpened this knife twice, I think, since I've had it. And both times, mind you, I'm not like, it's not dull. I mean, I'm just touching it up a little bit. I think I touched it up with like an 800 grit stone. But it strops up very easily. All right, very easy to put that that initial ridiculous edge back onto it after you cut a couple things with it. It's really awesome. I don't think the edge retention is not quite the same as like maybe M390. And by the way, this is made by Bowler. That's why I'm using that as an example, because it's one of their other steels. But it's close, in my opinion. But the big deal with this entire knife and the Vanax Superclean is that it is completely rust-proof. Yes, not rust-resistant, not stainless, rust-proof, all right? Titanium body. The Vanax steel itself is 100% rust-proof. It will not rust. The hardware on here is also titanium. Even the lock bar insert, they decided to use an LC200N, which if you're not familiar, is what Spyderco uses for their rust-resistant blades, okay? They're dive knives and, you know, I think the Salt line, I know they use H1 for a long time. As far as the difference between H1 LC200N and Vanax Superclean, in edge retention, I would say that Vanax is definitely better than the other two. The other two haven't been known for fantastic edge holding capability. They're really used a lot of times in specifically wet environments, like if you are kayaking or if you're going to the beach or anything like that where you know you're going to be in a nasty area where your knives normally rust. That's when you'd get something like, you know, a Salt model from Spyderco, let's say. But yeah, I've had no issues. I mean, obviously this is, I think it's DL coated black, but you know, with the actual edge being exposed all the time, I've had no issues at all with this rusting. Purposely got this wet a couple times because generally speaking, unless I'm walking around in the rain, my EDC doesn't really get wet. No issues at all with, you know, storing it. Sometimes once in a blue moon, if I store a knife and it's a little humid or something like that, or if I don't touch a knife for a while, it's in some kind of box or something in the summer where it's just kind of humid in the air. Sometimes I'll see a little rust appearing on stuff, but this just had no issue at all. You can go through further testing and try to rust this thing. It's just not going to work. All right, it doesn't rust, and that's really a major contributor to why you'd want something like this if you have a huge need for a rust-proof knife. This is not a cheap knife. Originally, again, I got it in trade. I didn't have to buy it, but it's about a $300 knife. Depends on which version you get. I think they're still selling for about that price, about 300 bucks. It looks a little plain Jane, but it is all performance. That's why I say this is truly a sleeper. It cuts, it's just ridiculous. Super, super thin, super, super hard, super, super sharp, super, super awesome. I really, really like it, even though it's kind of plain. My critiques on this knife, by the way, it does have a wire clip, which is deep conceal, which I absolutely love. Huge fan of the wire clip. Also, if you want to put a lanyard on here, which I did not, this is kind of interesting and different. There's a lanyard hole on the side that goes out of the back of the frame. A lot of times, like if there's a spacer and a cutout there, it'll go through that, but it's not. It kind of just goes through that hole and through that section right there, so it's out of the way. So presentation side, you wouldn't even see how it's connected. It would just be coming out of nowhere like a little magic trick. But yeah, this is quite the knife. I like pretty much everything about this. I probably prefer like the stonewash version of this knife. The only thing I don't like is that there's a little bit of a finger troll here to choke up. But, you know, if you have chunkier fingers like I do, and you try to get more meat lower in the finger like that, clearly it's not going to work. You're just be cutting your own finger. So if I do choke up on the knife a little bit, I have to use my fingertip and just be aware of that. All right, again, otherwise, even if I use half my finger, if I go to squeeze hard, that edge, which is ridiculously sharp, is going to cut right into my finger. All right, I know that because that's exactly what happened. I got just a little bit of a cut. It was so sharp I didn't even feel it. I was just bleeding a little bit. It's just one of those times where I was using a knife, and by the way, there's nice jimping on the back here, so it's very comfortable. Really, really locks the thumb in. It is perfect jimping, if you ask me. I mean, I can wiggle around, but my thumb's not actually moving. All right, it's very, very purposeful, but not uncomfortable. But there was a couple times where I did just kind of choke up on it a little bit and didn't even notice it, and all of a sudden I was just bleeding. I'm like, what the heck? And that's what happened. It just got me the tiniest bit. Overall, this is a fantastic knife. If you really, really have a need to have a pocket knife that can't rust because of your situation, this is definitely worth looking into and worth every penny of the $300 price tag in and around. If you just want something different, you don't want just the same old, definitely worth looking into not only the drift, but other stuff from Quiet Carry. It's just, like I said, sleeper brand, sleeper knife. It is awesome. I'm glad I was able to trade for one of these. And after many years of on-off usage, there is finally my opinions on it. I think it's pretty neat. I like this a lot. I like the all black look. Obviously, you know, after using it, you get the rub marks and all that kind of stuff. There's a little tiny ding here on this one. All right. So that little black coating came off right there. Not a huge deal, but I'd much prefer like the stonewash version of this knife. There's another one too that has like some kind of grip patterns on the front, like some ridges and stuff. Looks really, really cool. But overall, it's great. I mean, like I said, it's comfortable, it's light, super thin, super sharp, won't rust. There you go. That's the Quiet Carry Drift. I'm definitely a fan, and I'm definitely going to keep this brand on my radar. If there's some other designs in the future they come out with, who knows, might pick up another one. But that's it for now. Let me know down in the comment section, have you heard of Quiet Carry, and do you own any of their knives? Let everyone know what you think of them. But this is a fantastic first impression, albeit it took me a couple years to talk about it. It was a great first impression for the company. And more specifically, I'm very interested in finding out if these are actually American made or not. Like I said, I tried some research, but the only thing I could find was that they're out in California. I don't know for sure if they're importing these or if they're actually making them and producing them in California. That would just be an extra big bonus to be American made. But anyway, that's all. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.